Agatha Christie's novel Caribbean Mystery was written in 1964, and it is a Miss Marple novel. It begins with a rather interesting conversation that Miss Marple's having with the Major Palgrave, and yet it's interesting for us, but not interesting for Miss Marple, because Palgrave is a bit of a bore, and he tends to tell the same story over and over again. Miss Marple has been sent to the Caribbean by her nephew Raymond West, and we're firmly placed into the 1960s and the changes going on in the world when he announces to her that she needn't worry about her house because it's being looked after by a man who's very house proud because he's queer. And then he's slightly embarrassed that he used the term with his aunt, and but then he thinks, well, surely Jane knows what queers are. So we have this changing society again. We see little tiny earmarks of change. The rest of the novel is actually remarkably conventional in many ways as far as the characterizations go. Again, Christie's dealing with husbands and wives, marital relationships, generally ones that are not going well. And in this case, we have three sets of important couples. We have the Kendalls, who have opened up or purchased a resort in the Caribbean where all the people are staying. They're a British expat couple, and they're trying to make a go of it in the West Indies. And then we have the Dysons, and we also have the Hillingdons. The Hillingdons and the Dysons are a pair of couples that have been kind of traipsing around the world together, mostly in search of butterflies and different species of butterflies, but also flora and fauna of different areas around the world. And they've been in this area of the world several times. Let's get back to the conversation that Christie's having with Major Palgrave. The most interesting thing about it is that he says that he has a photograph of a murderer. He's got all of these stories that he tells, usually about India, and he seems to have a story about a woman poisoner, and but then he says he's got a photograph of a murderer. He starts to show Jane. He takes out the photographs, and then he suddenly gets flustered, changes the subject, and moves on to a different topic. Later, the next time we see him, it's in the evening at the hotel. He's quite drunk and trying to fit in with the different groups there, but doesn't fit in very well with all of these young couples. And the next morning, he's found dead, and apparently he had a heart condition, and he was mixing booze in his heart medicine. So that was the given cause for his death. Miss Marple, who is a bit more shrewd than the doctor, wants to make sure that it was just an accidental death. So she asks him quite innocently if Major Palgrave had any photographs on him, and she kind of makes up a story that she showed him a photograph and they got mixed up with his, and is the photograph there of this young man or woman, I don't remember exactly how she words it, but he's unable to find a photograph, and he identifies some of the other photographs. Later, Marple goes to the doctor and tells him really the reason she was wondering was because there was this question of him having a photograph of a murderer, and if that photograph is missing, then there's a good chance that the Major, in telling the story and in looking at the photograph, had one of these moments, kind of like Marina Gregg has in The Mirror Cracked, where there's a point of realization. Looking over Miss Marple's shoulder, he could see, he recognizes the person in the photograph, because this is a friend of a friend sort of photograph, so he probably never really scrutinized the photograph too closely, and so you have this moment. So the people who were within his line of vision were the Dysons and the Hillingdons. So Miss Marple begins to investigate with the help of a millionaire from Britain named Jason Raphael, who's going to play a larger part in Miss Marple's life in Nemesis later on. And Nemesis is a name that he gives Miss Marple because once she decides that things have to change, she kicks into action, and she's relentless in her pursuit of justice and truth. So we see with these couples, we have a lot of interesting things. Dyson was married before, and his wife Lucky was the nurse taking care of his wife when she had cancer. There's a question that maybe she helped the first Mrs. Dyson on her way a bit early to end her suffering, or maybe to be the second Mrs. Dyson and have a bit more money. Also, we find out that Lucky and Mr. Hillingdon are having an affair. Everyone knows about the affair, but doesn't say anything about it. It's only Mr. Hillingdon who seems to think it's a big secret. With the Kindles, most of the story is focused around the wife, around Mrs. Kindle, and she is because she seems very confident and kind at first. Miss Marple really likes her, but she seems to start to go through a breakdown. Molly is her name, and Molly is not able to sleep. She's going off for walks. She's having periods of blackout, and she seems to be kind of slowly going out of her mind. This culminates when she finds the body of Victoria, one of the Caribbean servants at the hotel, with a knife stuck in her stomach, and she's under a tree, and of course Molly's the number one suspect because she's out there with her. And so another murder occurs, which I won't spoil for you, but by the end, Miss Marple solves the case. It's a good Marple novel. I expected a bit more of the exotic setting, and I don't think that Christie really uses the Caribbean to advantage. You don't get really a sense of the place. This could have taken place anywhere, which I guess is a criticism of many of Christie's novels. Yet it doesn't have the exotic feel of some of her earlier travel mysteries from the 30s and early 40s. So I would give this one, I'd say about a 3.75 out of 5.